Hi guys, do you want to have the biggest, baddest garlic crop you've ever had? Me too. This year's crop is doing so much better than last year, but I have learned a few things. In this video, I'm going to share with you how I'm going to care for them this year. Stay till the end, and I'm also going to share with you what I'm going to change and do a little differently for next season. I'd like to welcome you to my backyard Kentucky homestead. If you're new here, my name is Kim. I want to thank you for joining me. If you like garlic and onions, go ahead and hit the like button. I'd appreciate it. Let's get started. So onions and garlic are actually both part of the allium family, and as such, they're very heavy feeders. What is surprising though is that while they are a bulbing type crop, they actually need nitrogen more than they need something like phosphorus. Each of the layers of the onion and the skins around the garlic bulb are actually connected to the leaf structure. So the more leafy green that you have, to an extent, the bigger onion and the bigger garlic bulb you're going to have. What I have found is that if you look at 10 different sources, they will all have just a little bit different suggestion on how to fertilize, what to use, and how often. But they do all say nitrogen is essential for big bulbs on both onion and garlic. So the fertilizing frequency is one of the areas that I found a lot of discrepancy from one source to another. Some are saying only fertilize twice during the season, others were every 2 weeks. So we're going to kind of split the difference on that. I did fertilize the garlic when it started growing earlier this spring. I also fertilized the onions when I planted them. Now it is about 4 to 6 weeks later, so we're going to go ahead and give another application of both blood meal and the granular balanced fertilizer. And I'm using Hollytone just because it was a really great deal at Home Depot. It was a really big bag for $25, $26. They also have the large bag of Garden Tone for $27. Makes it about $1 a pound, so definitely the best value I've found. And any of those, they're all made with the same stuff. It's a matter of a little bit more of this or a little bit more of that. So nitrogen is going to be for your leaf development. So cabbages need nitrogen. Obviously, onions and garlic need nitrogen as well. Your lettuce will need more nitrogen than it does the other stuff. But it does need a balance. The phosphorus is for root development or fruiting. So things like tomatoes and peppers, eggplant need phosphorus much more than nitrogen. If you have a very high nitrogen load on those, you're going to get a lot of growth, but not a lot of fruit. So the potassium is for the overall metabolic balance of the plant, for the health of the plant. So it keeps the nutrients flowing and it growing and just works to keep it healthy, stronger, and less susceptible to pest problems and disease problems. So what I'm going to do, again, because there is a huge difference between one source or another, is that I'm going to fertilize every 2 to 3 weeks with a blood meal and then once a month with that balanced fertilizer. And as far as the duration of how long you should fertilize them, for onions, you're going to fertilize them every 2 to 3 weeks until they start turning yellow and the leaves start bending over. That's the sign that they are ending their life and they're going to be ready for harvest in a couple of weeks. You don't want to fertilize garlic after the scapes have developed. You want to stop fertilizing at that point. So let me show you how I'm going to fertilize the onions and the garlic. So the first thing that we want to do with the onions, and we're going to do the same with the garlic, is going to go ahead and move the mulch back, because we want to be able to access the dirt directly. In order for the granular fertilizer to be processed, to be absorbed, it needs to have contact with the dirt, and it needs to be scratched into the dirt. Because one of the things you want to avoid is mixing this back into the soil itself, because this will rob nitrogen. If it's under the soil, it will rob nitrogen from the plant itself, or from the soil. And one thing you do want to do with garlic and onions both is to remove any weeds that might have grown up. So let's go ahead and pull that out, because they don't want any competition. Another thing that we're going to do is, if you have any leaves that are bent or look like they're dying off, like this one here is bent, that will trigger to the bulb that it needs to stop growing. So we're going to go ahead and trim that. We want to keep that weight off the neck so that the neck stays open, because this is the part that feeds the plant from the bulb up to the leaves and back. So we need to make sure that that stays as open as possible for as long as possible. So anything that's bent over, crimped, or otherwise doesn't look healthy, we're going to go ahead and just trim that off. Trim a couple of these because we do want to keep them as light as possible on top so that they stay growing. So now I'm going to sprinkle some organic fertilizer and then also some organic blood meal. It's a very, very, very fine powder. And then we're just going to, I'll go ahead and take that one off. Go ahead and scratch this in. And then we'll do the rest of the bed here after. It's a little heavy, so I'm going to go ahead and trim that down. Make sure everything is nicely set straight so it can continue to grow. Right, so there we go. So what I'll do now is once I've finished fertilizing the entire bed, I'll go ahead and put the mulch back around there. This is an area where I did have some of the onions die back. So I went ahead and put some cauliflower in here. So since I'm here with the blood meal, I'm going to go ahead and add some fertilizer here as well. So a little blood meal and a little bit of the organic fertilizer. And whatever, as I said, whatever kind you use is up to you. You just really want something that is a balanced. And then the blood meal is going to be a much higher nitrogen level. I do have a tremendous amount of garlic. Got Nootka Rose. I do have a tremendous amount of garlic this year. When I ordered my garlic, I'm like, oh, I want that kind, I want that kind. This is only the second year I've planted garlic, but it was just really, really exciting to try all the different ones, but I got way, way, way too much. So next year I'm going to pare it down to maybe 2 types of hard garlic and then 1 or 2 soft neck garlic. And again, what you want to do is make sure you get any weeds out. Check this out. This is already bulbing up and it's got little cloves already, a little bit, very, very little, but they're already starting. So look at that, see, I'm gonna cover it back up, keep it safe. Just like with the onions, we're gonna go ahead and put blood meal down. Okay, so then we're gonna scratch that in. And then we're gonna cover it back up. I'm not gonna put quite as much mulch on top of it as what was there. We'll just put a little bit of mulch back on top. And then I'll go ahead and finish the rest of the beds. All right, so just to sum it up, so we pulled back the mulch, we added the fertilizer and the blood meal directly to the soil, scratched that in. It needs soil contact for it to actually be processed. If it's just sitting on top, it won't do as well. It needs to have direct soil contact. I will finish all of the beds doing that. Once I replace all of the mulch, then I will also water it. So what am I going to change for next year? With regards to the garlic, the main thing is, as I said before, I'm not going to get as many. Right now I have almost 3 of these 6.5 by 3.5 foot beds. Pretty full with garlic. There are a couple of areas where it didn't come back over the winter, and I've planted other stuff there now. But I do have way, way, way more garlic than I need. So I'm going to limit it to 2 hard neck type and maybe 1 or 2 soft neck type. So I'll have 1, maybe 2 beds of garlic at the most. But it's just way too much. So that's a big difference with the garlic. If you've not planted garlic before, it does need to be planted in the fall, generally. Some of the soft neck garlic you can get away with very, very, very early spring. For most of it, you need to have the stratification that happens over the winter with the colder temperatures. So it will start growing in the fall. It might get a little bit of green on top. That's fine. It will come back in the spring, usually no problem. This was all planted in late October of last year. So here's what I'm going to do for next year. The first is that I'm going to start my onion seedlings, a week earlier. Start on January 1st. I'm going to head back to Christmas week and get them started. I'm going to put fewer seeds per cell so they have more room to grow and there's more nutrient available for each plant to take up. I will continue to fertilize them with a liquid organic fertilizer every 2 weeks once they get to be about yay high. You don't want to do it first, but after a few weeks that they've gotten about that big, I'm going to go ahead and start fertilizing them inside every 2 weeks while they're under the grow lights. Once they get to be about 3 or 4 inches tall, you want to start trimming the onions. You want to keep that weight off the top. Next year, I'm going to wait a little bit longer to put them out. Last year, I waited too late. This year, I planted out too early. Our average last frost date is around April 20th. I planted out the seedlings March 16th. And we had several very cold days after that. So I think next year I'm going to wait until about the last week of March. I'm going to give it another week or so. Give them a little bit longer growing time and also have the weather maybe a little bit more settled. And probably the biggest mistake I made this year was mulching right away. I really needed to wait until they had some growth on them. I stunted quite a few of them. And I think I actually completely smothered out a few others. A lot of my Walla Wallas are gone. I have now back there planted green beans to replace them so that there's something growing in that area. But I think I really smothered them out because they fizzled out. They're just dried up and gone. You can't even see them anymore. So don't mulch right away. Wait a few weeks until they get a little bit of size on them. So I will be adding more videos regarding mulching my potatoes and how I'm planting them. I'm doing 3 different methods. So watch out for that video. I will link it above once it's online. And also I'll be planting my tomatoes and my peppers and showing you how to do that. So hopefully this gave you some really great information about growing monster onions and gigantic garlic heads. If you are new here, please consider subscribing and follow me through my gardening journey. And until the next video, I hope you have a wonderful day and I'll see you again soon.